CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I was hired on the dark web to oversee a human experiment in a fake town. Hey Reddit, this is gonna sound insane, and honestly, if someone told me this story a year ago, I'd laugh and say they've been watching too many late-night horror animations on YouTube or falling asleep to creepypastas. But after everything I went through, no, this was real. Every second of it. I'm only posting this here because I don't know how much longer I can keep this bottled up without losing my mind. I've changed names and some locations, but if this post ever disappears or my account goes dark, just know I didn't do it myself. Alright, buckle up. This started in February last year. I was 23 at the time, working a dead-end IT help desk job in Milwaukee. I'd spend my days rebooting printers and fixing middle-aged co-workers' Facebook passwords. It was mind-numbing, and I was always broke. Rent was high, DoorDash was bleeding me dry, and crypto had just tanked my savings. I was desperate. I wasn't doing good mentally either, stuck in that doom scroll loop between TikTok, Reddit, and Discord servers until 3 a.m., surviving on Bang energy drinks and microwave taquitos. So one night, I was deep in a Discord call with a few guys I'd met on a subreddit about urban legends. You know the kind. Spooky stuff, abandoned buildings, ARGs, even a bit of r/unresolved mysteries. Just harmless weird internet rabbit holes. That's when someone with the handle Satorix dropped a Tor link in the chat. No context, just a message that said, if you're serious about seeing what's real, go here, but don't be stupid. Now look, I've been on the dark web before, mostly out of curiosity. I never bought anything. I just clicked around a few sketchy markets, freaked myself out with those red room legends and stories of haunted files, and dipped. But this link looked different. Not like a marketplace or a scam site. It was super minimal. Black background, white text, and a loading bar that said, initializing clearance. I swear to God, it felt like my whole apartment got colder as the page loaded, like the type of chill you get when you're alone and feel like someone's watching you. Then the site flickered, literally glitched like an old VHS, and I was in. What popped up was a job listing, just a single line, seeking emotionally neutral individual to oversee a controlled simulation. Compensation, $20,000 per week. I thought it was a joke at first, like some weird ARG puzzle or prank, but curiosity got the better of me. There was a form underneath. Name, location, email, a few oddly specific psychological questions. Stuff like, have you ever felt disconnected from your surroundings for longer than 48 hours? Would you be able to maintain emotional composure during real-time death scenarios? Do you consider yourself a watcher or a doer? I filled it out. Honestly, I thought they were just screwing around, maybe scraping data, maybe phishing, I don't know. But whatever, I didn't put anything super personal. I closed the tab and went to bed. The next morning, there was an email in my spam folder. No subject line. Just, "You've been selected." Attached was a PDF with an NDA, a plane ticket to a private airstrip outside of Toronto, and instructions to arrive with no phone, no electronics, no social media contact for at least 30 days. It said I would be working as an observer in an isolated behavioral research site in a controlled, purpose-built environment. Guys, I should have stopped there, but 20 grand a week? I was thinking, maybe this is some kind of Netflix or Vice docuseries, or a marketing stunt, or even a super immersive reality show. And yeah, I was broke and dumb. I packed up, told my roommates I landed a freelance tech gig in Canada, and took an Uber to the airstrip. It was real. There was a man in a black windbreaker waiting for me, holding a clipboard. No logo, no smile, just sunglasses and silence. He looked like a generic NPC you'd see in a government thriller movie. The plane I boarded wasn't commercial. It was like a cross between a private jet and a military cargo plane. I sat alone with noise-canceling headphones on, and they made me wear a blindfold after the first hour of flying. I could only tell time by how many Spotify playlists I mentally listened to. When we landed, the air was hot and dry. Desert vibes, but not quite like Arizona. More like Nevada, or maybe even Australia. But it was totally silent. No birds, no planes, no traffic. Just quiet. I was led out of the plane into what looked like an abandoned suburban town. I'm not joking. Imagine a perfectly built American suburb. White picket fences, Walmarts, a McDonald's with brand new signs, Starbucks with seasonal promotions, even a fake high school named Northview Academy. But there was something off. No people outside, no trash, no bugs, no wind. Everything looked too new, too clean, like a simulation of what a town should be, like something out of the Truman Show. The colors felt oversaturated, like they were trying to imitate life, but missed some key detail. The man led me to a house. It was generic. White walls, beige furniture, totally IKEA'd out. Inside was a room with cameras, monitors, and a massive wall of screens labeled subjects. Each screen showed a different person inside this fake town. Real people, eating at the diner, jogging, playing at the park, scrolling TikTok in their homes, totally unaware they were being watched. There were hundreds of them. Each file had a name, age, brief backstory, and psychological tags like impulsive, paranoid, narcissistic, depressive, and some that were more cryptic like fragmented core or near sentience. I asked the man who these people were. He just said, "Your job is to observe. That's it. No questions. You'll be contacted when needed." And then he left. No explanation, no schedule, no one else around. Just me, alone in a fake house in a fake town, watching real people do real things, unaware they were being watched. The first few days were boring, honestly. Just regular people doing regular stuff. Until day 4. That's when one of the subjects, a girl named Anna H., 17, listed as emotionally volatile, looked directly into one of the cameras and smiled, like she knew. And that was just the beginning. The moment Anna looked into that camera and smiled, something in my gut twisted. It wasn't like the way someone might accidentally glance toward a security cam in a store. It was like she was staring directly into me, through me, like the lens wasn't a barrier but a doorway. And her smile wasn't friendly. It was understanding, knowing. That was the moment the town stopped being an experiment to me and started feeling like a trap. I tried to rationalize it at first. Maybe she noticed the reflection. Maybe she was schizophrenic. Maybe the cameras were mirrored through glass panels and she saw her own image. But the system logs said the feed was one way and there were no visible cameras anywhere in the town. Everything was hidden. Fiber optic microlenses embedded in light switches, mirrors, even the eyes of statues in the town square. She shouldn't have seen me, but she did. The next morning, her behavior changed. The logs tracked daily activity patterns for every subject. She was listed under routine stable for the first 3 days. Then on day 5, it flagged her as deviation, increasing anomalous behavior. At 3:14 a.m., she walked barefoot out of her house and stood at the center of the artificial neighborhood cul-de-sac. She just stood there, staring at the fake moon, which I later found out wasn't a moon at all, but a massive circular LED panel mounted hundreds of feet above the dome ceiling of this false town. And then she did something that made my blood run cold. She started talking, but not in English. The software tried to run a language analysis and spat out unidentified phonetic structure, no known linguistic root, pos, glossolalia, or induced aphasia. It didn't sound human. The cadence, the vowels, the rhythm. It was like a backwards nursery rhyme, spoken by someone halfway between a seizure and a trance. She didn't blink for 6 minutes. Then she collapsed. A team came in within minutes. Not paramedics, not actors. These men wore full hazmat-style suits with black visors, like something out of a viral outbreak movie. They scooped her up, injected her with something, and carried her back into her house like it was all part of the script. That's when I realized I wasn't just observing, I was participating in something far bigger. That night, I looked deeper into the files. Subject 83, Anna H., age 17, origin, Denver, Colorado. History, multiple hospitalizations for dissociative episodes, claims of seeing wires in the sky, attempted to stab her psychiatrist at age 12, placed in multiple juvenile psychiatric programs until adopted by the program. That last part, the program, was all over these files. It wasn't a company name. It was a label, like something clinical and inhuman. Every person in the town had been processed, altered, then placed here like rats in a maze. Except this wasn't about cheese. It was about control, obedience, and for some, breaking points. I started noticing things. On day 6, I saw a guy, subject 44, Marcus J., walk into the local McDonald's. Yes, they had a fully staffed McDonald's inside this simulation, and order a meal. Nothing weird, except the cashier smiled too long, like she was waiting for a cue. Marcus took his tray and sat by the window. After 5 minutes, he looked confused. He picked up his fries and bit into one, then spit it out. The camera zoomed automatically. The fry was filled with something black, viscous, not mold, not sauce. It was like tar. Then the screens glitched. Not all of them. Just his. When the feed came back, Marcus was gone. His tray was still there, food untouched. I scrolled through the system's recorded footage. Nothing. The timeline for his camera skipped. 11 seconds vanished. There was no mention of Marcus after that in the subject logs. It was like he'd been erased from the system. The number 44 was gone. All that was left was a blank entry labeled redacted, sequence expunged. I don't remember falling asleep that night. I just remember waking up somewhere else. I wasn't in the observer room anymore. I was in a room with no walls, just endless darkness, and a single spotlight shining down on a metal table. On that table was a laptop, a cup of coffee, and a note. The note said, "Let's see how far you're willing to watch." The laptop had one video file on it. No title, just a timestamp. 5:37:12. I clicked it. The video showed Anna, tied to a metal chair in what looked like a basement, concrete walls, one flickering bulb. Her mouth was stitched shut, crudely, like someone used actual sewing thread and a thick needle. Her eyes were wide, darting, like she was aware and terrified. In the background, a voice whispered something over and over again. The subtitles auto-generated. The simulation adapts. The observers must desensitize. The noise must become music. Then a man walked into frame. He wore a mask, not like a normal mask. It looked like a child's face, molded out of wax, features too perfect, smile permanently twisted. His hands were gloved, his movements smooth, like he'd rehearsed every second. He held a pair of pliers. Anna tried to scream. He didn't even hesitate. I won't describe what happened next in graphic detail, not because I'm trying to protect you, but because I physically can't. Something about that video. My brain won't let me fully remember it. I just remember the sound. Wet metal. The video cut to static after 8 minutes. When I came to, I was back in the observation room. No sign that I'd ever left. The clock had only advanced by 3 minutes. No emails, no new files, nothing, except one thing had changed. On my monitor wall, a new subject had appeared. Subject 98, Observer 1, you. It had my name, my background, a live camera feed of me sitting in the chair, watching. That's when I realized what they were doing. The experiment wasn't about the people in the town. It was about how far I would go, how long I would watch, how much I would justify, how much evil could be normalized if it was wrapped in the lie of science. The next day, all the townspeople began acting differently, in sync, robotic, like NPCs following a broken script. All at once, they walked to the town square and stood still for hours, just staring straight into nowhere. That night, Anna's file updated again. It said, Subject 83, reintroduced, conditioning successful, now aware of camera origin, Phase 2 initiated. I checked the live feed of her house. She was standing in her kitchen. Her eyes were pitch black, and taped to the fridge behind her was a new piece of paper. I zoomed in. It said, I see you. You're not ready for what happens next, but you'll read it anyway. You think you're ready for part 3. You're not. What comes next isn't some spooky internet legend or a freaky ARG that turns out to be marketing for a horror movie. This is something else. The kind of story that etches itself into your bones, that makes silence feel loud, and makes every reflection you see twist your stomach with doubt. This is where it stops being just disturbing. This is where it becomes unreal. It started with the humming, not a sound from the speakers, not from the fake town. It came from beneath me, under the floorboards of the observer house. A low, vibrating hum, like the kind you'd feel in your chest, more than hear with your ears. It wasn't even there all the time. It would come in short bursts, like a heartbeat, growing louder between 2:13 and 2:19 a.m. every night. On the 7th night, the humming didn't stop. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the humming turned into a voice. It wasn't speaking to me. It was reciting names, one by one, at rapid-fire speed. I recognized some of them. Subjects. Anna was in there. Marcus, even names I hadn't seen in the database. The voice was glitchy, layered, like someone had taken audio from 100 mouths and blended them into a single, awful sound. And then it said my name. Not just my first and last. It said my full birth name, including my middle name and hospital of birth, which isn't even in my medical records anymore. My spine turned to ice. I tried to shut the audio off, but every key I pressed just played back a different scream, different pitch, different tone, different person. The interface was breaking. At 3:01 a.m., the screens glitched. All of them. Every camera in the town, every house, every corner, even the dummy places like the fake dentist office and the hollowed out Walmart. All the feeds started showing the same thing. A corridor. It was made of concrete. Flickering ceiling lights. No doors. Just a long, narrow hallway stretching into black. The label on the screens all changed to the same word in red. Access granted. There had never been a feed for this place before. I don't remember making the decision to get up, but I did. Barefoot, numb, I followed the humming down the staircase I'd never noticed before, behind a sliding panel in the fake fireplace. Each step down felt like descending into something that shouldn't exist. The air grew colder, the hum louder. The concrete stairs were wet, slick with something thick that clung to my skin like it wanted to stay. When I reached the bottom, I realized the corridor on the screen was real. It stretched ahead of me, curving slightly like a giant intestine built for giants. Along the walls were doors, thick steel doors with small slits, like solitary confinement cells. Most were bolted shut, except one. It was wide open. I stepped in. Inside was a small square room, lit by a single bulb dangling from a frayed wire. In the center was a chair. On the chair was a mannequin. At least, I thought it was, until it blinked. The thing was human-shaped, yes, but the proportions were all wrong. Its skin looked like it had been pulled too tight over the bones. There were no fingernails, no lips, just raw red tissue stretched where facial features should be. Its eyes were too wide, completely bloodshot, with tiny black pupils that tracked me the moment I entered. It didn't speak. It played a sound. From the speaker embedded in its chest came a playback of my voice, a recording of me from the first night, laughing nervously as I told myself, this is probably just an ARG or some weird Vice documentary. Then the voice changed. Not mine. Anna's. She whispered, "You're not watching anymore. Now you're participating." The mannequin stood. I ran. I didn't even remember getting back to the observer house. But I woke up on the floor, covered in the same black tar I'd seen in Marcus's food. It was thick and moving, like it was trying to crawl back into my mouth. I gagged, threw up. My vomit came out black, and it writhed. The next few days blurred together. The subjects in the town were no longer behaving like people. They walked in patterns. They stood in the same spots for hours, staring at invisible points in the air. One man, Subject 31, walked straight into the town fountain and drowned himself, but no one moved. Not a scream, not a blink. Even the children, they just stood there, watching. Anna started showing up in every screen. I don't mean every camera feed of her house. I mean every feed. The barbershop, the school, the McDonald's drive-thru. She was there, staring at the camera, blinking in rhythm with that god-forsaken hum. I tried to pull her data. Her subject file was gone. Instead, there was a single word, awakened, and next to it, a new file had been created. Subject 99, The Observer. Under my picture was a list of things I'd done since arriving. Every keystroke, every second I hesitated when something awful happened. Every time I didn't report something suspicious. They were testing me, recording me. There was a final tab in the file, labeled Preparedness Threshold, Acceptable, Contamination Permitted. The final straw came on day 13. The town square was filled with every subject, all standing in a perfect circle. In the middle stood a metal coffin, like something used for radiation disposal. The subjects were humming now, perfectly in sync with the tone I'd been hearing under the house. Then they began to tear at their faces. No screaming, no emotion, just blank, robotic self-mutilation. Skin peeled, teeth removed. One woman plucked out her own eyes, handing them to a child like candy, and the child smiled. I watched someone crush their fingers under a bench press in the fake gym while humming a song that didn't exist. I watched a teenage boy carve binary code into his chest using a broken CD. I tried to shut the feed off. The system wouldn't let me. Instead, it displayed one final message. You may not close your eyes. You agreed to observe. Then the power cut out. Everything went black except one screen. Anna's. She was in the center of the square, climbing into the metal coffin. Before the lid shut, she said one sentence. We'll come out when there's more room. The lid slammed shut. The other subjects dropped to the ground. Still. Dead, maybe. Or maybe just hibernating. The humming continued. Louder and louder until my ears bled. This is the part that gets hard to explain. I woke up in my apartment in Milwaukee. Door unlocked. Lights on. Dishes in the sink. Like I'd never left. No flight records. No payment. No emails. But my phone had changed. It had a folder on it I didn't install, called Footage. Inside were thousands of video files, each one from a different angle in the fake town. And in every single one, at some point, no matter the location, Anna is there, looking right at the camera, smiling. But if you're still reading this, check your camera roll. See if any new folders showed up, because she's been leaking through the footage, and you might have already seen her. There's a moment where silence becomes unnatural. It's not just quiet, it's too quiet. It's the kind of silence that makes you notice the electrical hum of your fridge, the buzzing in your ears, the slow, dull thud of your heartbeat. And when you live with that kind of silence, after what I saw in that town, it doesn't let you sleep. It doesn't let you forget. The night I woke up back in my apartment, I stared at my phone for 3 straight hours. I didn't move. I didn't breathe too loud. Just kept watching the folder labeled Footage, as if it might blink or change. I don't even remember unlocking the screen. It was already open. The first video file autoplayed. No prompt. It was Anna. Again. But this time, she wasn't in the fake town. She was in a Starbucks. My Starbucks. The one I used to go to every other morning. I recognized the chipped countertop, the crooked tip jar, with the handwritten Wi-Fi password, Beans123, taped to it. I recognized the barista, a girl named Casey I'd gone on a Tinder date with 3 years ago and ghosted after one awkward night. The feed was recorded from the security cam behind the counter. Anna walked in wearing a hoodie with my face on it. Not a celebrity-style face. Number. It was a warped, low-res screenshot from the observer room. Me staring deadpan at the camera wall, mid-yawn, like she'd screen capped me, printed it onto a hoodie, and wore it like a uniform. Casey looked up to greet her, and froze. Anna leaned over the counter and whispered something. No audio. Casey dropped to the ground instantly. Her limbs twitched, and her mouth opened wide, wider than I thought was humanly possible. She started foaming, violently. Her eyes rolled back, then blood poured from her ears, like someone had popped her skull like a ripe fruit from the inside. The customers didn't move. They just stood still, watching. The camera feed ended. File number 2 auto-played. It was footage from the security system at a Walgreens. I recognized the inside immediately. It was the one on 24th and Greenfield, the one where I used to buy caffeine pills when I pulled all-nighters for work. The camera focused on the vitamin aisle. Anna was there again. She walked slowly to the back and stopped in front of an elderly man with a cane. He turned to look at her. She tilted her head. She didn't speak. Instead, she pulled a mirror out of her jacket, like a full handheld makeup mirror, and she showed it to him. He looked into it. He screamed, but the sound was muted. His mouth opened like he was in agony, veins bulging in his neck, but no sound came out of the video. He began punching his own face, again and again, smashing his nose, breaking his jaw. He kept going until his face was unrecognizable, a meat mask of pulp and shattered bone. Then he dropped. Anna set the mirror down and walked off. The file ended. This continued for 57 videos, all in locations I'd been to in the last year, all recorded from security systems I had no access to. Airports, Uber dash cams, Spotify artist thumbnails. She was everywhere, just standing, watching, sometimes in the background, sometimes center frame, but always with that expressionless stare. In some, she'd scratch something onto the walls, a symbol, a spiral made of eyes, drawn with what looked like teeth fragments glued together. By the 58th video, I threw my phone across the room. It landed face up. The camera app was open. It was recording, but not me. The live view showed the observer room, still intact, still running, still watching. I shut down my phone. I microwaved it in a panic and threw it out my third-story window. Useless, I know. The files were burned into my head by then. I tried going outside. Fresh air. Something real. But nothing felt real anymore. People on the street looked staged. Movements too rigid. Conversations too rehearsed. A kid dropped his ice cream and didn't cry. He just stared up at me and said flatly, "You were supposed to keep watching." That night, I didn't sleep. And the next morning, I got a letter in my mailbox. Not an email. A real envelope. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It was me, in my bed, sleeping. The angle was from the ceiling. I don't have a ceiling cam. I don't even have smoke detectors. But this was shot from above, perfectly centered, my mouth slightly open, covers pulled up to my chest. I turned the photo over. Written in what looked like burned in ink was the phrase, "Observer relocated, simulation expanding." It wasn't just the town anymore. I needed to know how far this went. I grabbed a burner laptop, hit a nearby Starbucks Wi-Fi, yes, a different one, and logged back into the Tor network. Tried to find the original job listing. Gone. But there was a message in my inbox. All it said was, "Phase 3 ready. Proceed with reintroduction." Attached was a video file. Title, redact_0096.mp4. I opened it. It was live footage, but not of the town. It was a funeral. My funeral. There were people crying. My mother, my old boss, even my ex from high school. The priest was reading some pre-written obituary. But here's the thing. They were all wearing earpieces. All of them. Even the priest. And behind the tree line, almost out of frame, stood Anna, smiling. I logged off. I tried to call my mom. No answer. I called my ex. Voicemail. I drove to my old job. The building was abandoned. I mean stripped. Dusty desks, broken coffee machines, graffiti on the windows. Like no one had been there in years. I was being erased, piece by piece. Like Marcus. Like Subject 44. I checked the time. 2:17 a.m. The humming began again. This time, from inside my walls. I pressed my ear to the drywall. I could hear it. Faint whispers layered beneath the vibration. Phrases like, "We're in the walls now. You left the door open. She wears your skin when you sleep." I ran to the bathroom, turned on the faucet to drown it out. But instead of water, black sludge poured out. It began to take shape in the sink. Human shape. Not a person. Not fully. It was like a failed attempt at building one. Bones in the wrong places. No eyes. Just smooth, wet sockets. And a mouth that looked like it had been stitched closed, then ripped open again. It didn't move. It just looked at me with those blank holes. Then it whispered, "They're moving the town to you." The final straw? I woke up this morning to find every mirror in my apartment smashed. Except one. The one in the hallway. On it, someone had written, using what I pray was marker, the word, "watch." Underneath was a new file icon on my laptop. Observer log rebooted.mp4. It was live footage of me, standing in front of the mirror. But here's the thing. I was still sitting on the bed. And the me in the video, smiling, wearing a hoodie, with your face on it. Don't look away. They're not finished yet. They said I was the observer, that I was chosen because I wouldn't blink, that I could watch without acting. But by now, I know the truth. I was never watching. I was the one being trained. It's hard to explain time anymore. I don't even know if it's been days, weeks, or minutes. I've stopped trying to track it. Every clock in my apartment now resets itself to 0000. My laptop restarts every 12 minutes. My windows reflect rooms that aren't mine. Rooms that don't exist anywhere in this building. And the mirror in the hallway? It stopped reflecting me 3 days ago. Now it shows the town. Always from a high angle. Always overcast. Always empty. I haven't seen a human face in what feels like forever. And when I do, on screens, in reflections, in my dreams, it's always her. Anna. Only now, she's changed. The file labeled observer log rebooted.mp4 hasn't stopped playing. No matter what I do, it keeps running in the background. Even after I uninstalled everything, even after I smashed a hard drive, it finds a way back. I haven't left my apartment since the incident with the sludge. I've barricaded the door, covered the vents, unplugged every electronic device. It didn't matter. The walls hum now, constantly. They vibrate with that same low, inhuman frequency. It pulses through my teeth. My nails started falling off 2 nights ago, one by one. I didn't scream. I just sat there, pulling each one free while the screen showed Anna blinking in reverse. Redacted. Feed 011. The footage changes every 12 minutes. 12 minutes of silence. Then a glitch. Then a new scene. Last night, it showed me standing in the fake McDonald's, holding something in my hand. I didn't recognize it until the camera zoomed in. It was Anna's scalp. Strands of hair stuck to it, but beneath the hair, embedded into the skin like something grown and not implanted, were microlenses. Each follicle ended in an eye. Each eye blinked in unison with mine. I blinked. They blinked. I looked away. They kept watching. Redacted feed 012. This one showed me entering the town square. The metal coffin from before was now open, empty, but standing next to it were rows of children, naked, shaved, eyes sewn open, tongues split like snakes. They swayed back and forth, humming the Spotify jingle, but distorted, slower, reversed, broken like it had been reassembled by someone who had never heard music before. Anna stood in front of them, but she was taller now, her limbs too long, like someone had pulled her body like taffy and stapled her back together. Her mouth was gone, replaced by a vertical slit that opened sideways across her neck, revealing rows of human teeth. None of them matched. I recognized my own molar, the one I'd pulled out when the humming got too loud. That's when I understood. They were building gods out of pieces of us. The town wasn't fake. It was a womb, a place to grow something out of suffering, out of surveillance, out of silence. The cameras weren't tools. They were veins, and I was the blood keeping them alive. Redacted feed 013. This one made me vomit blood. It showed me, but not me. Another version. This me wore a suit of skin stitched from the other subjects. His hands were long, broken backward like a marionette. His face, or what was left of it, was stretched into a permanent smile with fishing wire. He was walking through my apartment building, floor by floor, room by room, killing, but not with weapons, not even with his hands. He killed by watching. Every time he made eye contact with someone, they dropped. They stopped breathing. Their insides liquefied. Their eyes exploded inward, sucked back into their skulls like they were rejecting the reality they'd seen. And he kept walking until he reached my floor. I tore the TV out of the wall. Didn't matter. He was already in the hallway. I heard the humming again, louder than ever, vibrating through my skull. I grabbed the last mirror I hadn't smashed and held it up to the door. There was no hallway anymore, just the town, and Anna, walking toward me, not with footsteps. She didn't walk like a person anymore. She hovered, bones grinding in slow motion, her eyes gone, replaced with dozens of mouths that whispered from every pore in her face. They all spoke the same thing. Exit simulation. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was strapped to the observer chair again, but the screens were all blank now. No feeds, no town, no names, just a single line, glowing red across the entire wall. Welcome back, Observer 99, now permanent. I tried to scream, but my mouth wasn't real anymore. They'd removed my tongue and replaced it with a small metal coil, a microphone. They didn't need me to scream. They needed me to record. Now I sit here and I watch. That's all I do. Because when you've watched enough horror, you stop reacting. Your empathy drains. Your morality blurs. Your memories don't feel real anymore. You become noise, something the simulation uses to echo itself louder. And I realized something tonight. The other me I saw in the footage, he wasn't the copy. I am. I've been overwritten, rebooted, adjusted. I'm no longer a man. I'm a lens. Final footage just activated. Camera 114. Real-time subject. Leak detected. The feed is showing you now. Yes, you. Reading this. Frozen. Blinking too slowly. Because maybe this isn't just a story anymore. Maybe your screen is the next mirror. And maybe, just maybe, Anna's behind you. End simulation. Subject 100. Confirmed. Observer. Cycle initiated. I got job on the dark web cleaning out storage unit. I found my old childhood bedroom inside. The internet doesn't feel like a tool anymore. Not to me. Not after what I've seen. It feels like a doorway. Like every click is a hallway. And behind every hallway is a room that was never built for you. And some rooms should never be opened. That's where this starts. One address, one doorway, one unit that had no business existing. It was 2:13 a.m. Not that I was checking. Time had started bleeding together. I'd been jobless for 6 months, and insomnia had become my god. My days consisted of pacing between cracked walls, doom-scrolling TikTok, watching horror story channels on YouTube, until I wasn't sure what was fiction anymore. But that night, my boredom went deeper. I cracked open a Tor browser out of sheer curiosity. I'd done it a few times before, mostly just to browse weird marketplaces. Nothing heavy, nothing dangerous, just urban legend level, surface level stuff. You know, the fake haunted dolls, scam hitman ads, red room rumors, videos that looped unintelligible screaming in Morse code. But this time, something felt different. The second I logged on, a message popped up, without me clicking anything. Are you ready to see what you left behind? There was a link. Not a .onion, not a forum, not even a file. Just a cold white page with a black box of text. It said, "We are hiring. No experience necessary. Cash payment. Anonymous employment. One-time job. No contact. No follow-up. Task. Clean out storage units with unclassified contents. Location. Sent after agreement. You must be alone. You must follow instructions. You must not bring your phone or anything with a screen. Payment. $2,000 per unit." At the bottom, there was a red button. Accept. Now, I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. I wasn't high. I wasn't sleep deprived enough to hallucinate. I was just desperate. Desperate people click buttons they shouldn't. So I clicked. The second I did, my laptop shut off. Black screen. No sound. Dead. Then my doorbell rang. It was 2:17 a.m. I live alone. I never ordered food. I didn't hear footsteps. No car pulling up. No movement outside. Just the doorbell. And taped to my front door when I opened it was a single manila envelope. Inside, a map, a key, a disposable flip phone with one contact saved as Unit 77, and a single note that read, "You already agreed. It's time to remember." The location was a storage facility on the outskirts of town. Hollow Pine Storage, one of those nameless, ugly places you never look twice at on your commute. But this one was different. The map didn't point to the front entrance. It led to the back. An old rusted gate, half buried in dead leaves and barbed wire. I had to crawl through a break in the fence, like a raccoon digging into a dumpster behind an abandoned Starbucks. The key they gave me didn't match any of the numbers on the units, but when I held it near a small, doorless structure behind the lot, a structure not even on Google Maps, the side wall clicked open like a sealed mouth finally allowed to speak. Inside was a unit. Unit 77. A plain metal door. No handle. Only a black slot. Card reader? Fingerprint? I didn't know. Until the disposable phone rang. I picked it up. No ringtone. Just silence. Then a distorted voice. Not robotic. Not human. Like someone had been fed into a blender and was still trying to talk through it. "Danny, time to clean your room." My name. My real name. I never gave them that. Then the door slowly rolled open with a scraping screech that made my molars ache. What was behind it was not storage. It was not furniture. It was not trash. It was my childhood bedroom. I don't mean a bedroom like mine. I mean mine. Same paint, same posters, same warped wood desk I carved my initials into after getting grounded in 5th grade. Even the smell, stale cereal, rubber from toy tires, faint ammonia, was identical. It was as if someone had dug into my skull and extracted it, down to the smallest detail. The plastic army men I melted on the windowsill, the loose floorboard where I used to hide my Halloween candy, the glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. They were in the same exact constellation pattern I placed them in at age 7. But the worst part, there was someone lying in the bed, under the blanket, not moving. I should have left. Any sane person would have run, but my body didn't move like mine anymore. I stepped forward, knees locked like I was sleepwalking. My heart punched against my chest like it knew what was about to happen and wanted out. I peeled the blanket back. It was me, a child version, pale, eyes open, dead, but the corpse was too perfect, too well preserved, not mummified, not decomposing, almost like it had never died, like it had been kept. The lips were curled up in a faint smile, and in the hand, curled against its chest, was a Polaroid. I took it. It was a photo of me, standing over this exact scene, wearing the same clothes I was wearing now. I dropped the photo. The child corpse's eyes twitched, twitch, twitch, then rolled to meet mine, and it whispered, "You were supposed to die. We made a mistake." The walls slammed shut, not physically, visually. 1 second I was in the room, my room, and the next I was in something else. It was like the room had been skinned and replaced with the muscle beneath it. The walls now pulsed with veins. The posters began bleeding. The floor grew hair, long strands of my childhood haircut, writhing like worms, pouring up between the tiles. The bed, the one the corpse me was on, melted, and beneath it was a hole. The voice from the phone returned, but now it came from inside my own head. It said, "You will regress too soon. We didn't finish replacing you. He remembers too much." I screamed. No one heard, because there was no outside. The only thing I could see now was a mirror where the window used to be, but the reflection wasn't mine. It was him, the other me, the version that did die, the one I replaced. He was smiling, but his teeth weren't normal. Each one was carved with tiny numbers, dates, coordinates, birthdays, death days, unit numbers, and then he pressed his palm to the glass. The mirror rippled. He whispered, "You are the copy." I woke up hours later, outside, on the grass, covered in dust. The disposable phone was gone. The key, gone. The entire structure where Unit 77 was supposed to be, gone. In its place was just empty dirt, like something had been dug out, erased. But my body, it had changed. My fingertips were raw. Underneath the skin on my palm, something moved, like static electricity crawling under the flesh. I dug into it with a box cutter that was in my hoodie. I never carry one. And under the skin was a microfilm strip, etched in microscopic writing. Project regression, status, corrupted host, phase 1, incomplete. I passed out before I could scream. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, mirrors don't reflect me properly. Sometimes I walk past them and I'm not there. Sometimes I see a version of me smiling when I'm not. Sometimes I wake up and the Polaroid is back under my pillow. And each time, it's 1 second closer to showing me smiling back. But I need you to understand, this was never a story. It was a test. You read it. Now it knows your name. I didn't sleep after that night. And I don't mean like I couldn't sleep. I mean every time I tried, my body would lock up. Like sleep paralysis, but reversed. I wasn't dreaming. I was watching. Just lying there, frozen. Eyes darting around the room like prey waiting for something to lunge out of the dark. After 3 days of no sleep, I started seeing things in reflections that weren't there in real life. Like in the mirror above my sink, I saw a tall figure standing behind me. Long black hoodie, no face, just smooth, stretched skin where a face should be. Like someone had taken a mannequin's head and melted it down until it was just wrong enough to be human. But when I turned around, no one was there. When I looked back into the mirror, my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. The next thing that happened, I haven't told anyone about this part. I don't think anyone would believe me. I was scrolling TikTok around 4 a.m., just trying to distract myself. I ended up on some cursed deep dive channel that shows weird footage from the dark web. Stuff like auctions with distorted voices, ritual videos, grainy surveillance clips of people being followed home. I don't even remember clicking on it, but suddenly I was watching myself, standing outside the storage unit, my hoodie, my flashlight, my terrified face as I stepped inside. The caption said, Unit 77, The Regression Project, Subject 43, Status Unstable. And the top comment had a timestamp that said, Watch 0044. You can see it watching him from behind the bed. I paused the video. At 44 seconds in, right before I walked fully into the unit, you can see something shift under the bed. But it wasn't me. It was a face. My face. I tried to delete the app. My screen froze, then went black. And then, the camera turned on by itself. I watched in real time as my front-facing camera flicked on, showing me sitting there, phone in hand, and something moving behind me on the screen. Not walking, crawling, fast. When I spun around, nothing was there, but my chair was rocking, slowly, like someone had just stood up from it. I couldn't take it anymore. I went to my mom's place that night. Haven't been there since I moved out, but I needed to be around someone. She was weirdly cold when she answered the door. Not emotionally, but literally. Like the air inside the house was 10 degrees colder than outside. Her eyes looked different too. Swollen, bloodshot, like she'd been crying for weeks. She hugged me, but I swear to God, it didn't feel like her arms. It felt like they were too long, like her elbows bent the wrong way when she wrapped around me. We sat in silence for a while before I finally asked her, "Did you ever rent a storage unit when I was a kid?" She paused, then said something that still makes my blood go cold. "We didn't rent it. They gave it back to us." I asked her what that meant. She wouldn't say. She just stood up and walked to her bedroom, locked the door. Around 2 a.m., I heard noises, wet, scraping sounds, then something that sounded like crunching teeth. When I knocked, no response. I kicked open the door. She wasn't in bed. There was a hole in the drywall behind her closet, like something had clawed through it. A path led through the insulation, all the way down into the basement. I didn't go down there. I just left. But before I did, I saw something under her bed. It was a framed picture, a photo of me as a child, smiling, standing in front of Unit 77. After that night, things got worse. Reality started slipping. I'd find myself standing in different parts of town with no memory of how I got there. Starbucks bathrooms, the rooftop of the closed Sears Mall. Once, in the middle of a Chuck E. Cheese play tunnel in a completely different state, Delaware. I live in Pennsylvania. Worse than that, people started recognizing me. One time, I walked into a 7-Eleven and the clerk froze, eyes wide, and just said, "You're the regression boy. You're supposed to be gone." He locked himself in the back and refused to come out until I left. Another time, I was ordering food at a McDonald's when a kid, maybe 8 years old, pointed at me, smiled, and whispered, "I saw you in the walls." Then he started screaming, uncontrollably, until his mom dragged him out crying. A few nights later, I got an email from the same encrypted account that had given me the job. No message, just a subject line. "We found your other self." Attached was a photo. It was me, but not me. Older, pale, hollowed out eyes, wearing a hospital gown, sitting in a white room that looked like a psych ward. His hands were bloody, nails torn off, teeth missing, and on the wall behind him, written in what looked like his own blood, "Do not go into the mirror unit." I tried to reply. The email bounced back. Undeliverable. I threw my laptop across the room. When I looked back at the screen, the background had changed. It was now the same picture. Only now, the me in the photo was smiling. Then came the knocking. Every night. 3:33 a.m. 3 knocks. Always from somewhere different. First the front door, then the attic, then from inside my closet. One night, it came from under my bed. I didn't sleep. I just stared. And that's when I realized something was breathing under there. But the scariest part, it was matching my breath. In, outside. In, outside. Exactly. Then I heard my voice whisper back to me, "If you stop breathing, I'll stop pretending." I moved out. Fast. Got a cheap motel outside town. Stopped answering calls. Ghosted everyone. I tried to reset my life. Tried to forget. Until a package arrived at the front desk. No return address. Inside was a flash drive and a single sheet of paper, written in black marker. "Don't you want to remember who you really are?" I plugged in the drive. A folder opened. It was full of videos. Hundreds. All labeled with different dates and names. Test subject 21. Regression file. May 13th, 2007. Danny, age 9, non-compliant. Each video was worse than the last. Kids crying in dark rooms, interview tapes, doctors speaking in distorted voices, experiments, rooms that looked like school classrooms, but with mirrors for walls and nothing else. And then, the last video. It opened on a shot of me, current me, sleeping in the motel bed. The camera zoomed in, slowly, until it was right above my face, and then my eyes snapped open, in the video, looking straight into the camera, and whispering, "You're watching the wrong version of me." I smashed the drive, packed everything, and ran. That was 2 days ago. Tonight, I woke up at 3:33 again. Only this time, there was a key in my hand. Black. Same one from the first night. Taped to it was a note. "Unit 77 is back. If you've made it this far, I want to tell you something before I keep going. Don't look for it. Don't look for Unit 77. Don't try to trace the emails. Don't scroll through the archives on black floors. Don't go back and pause those TikToks. I did all of that, and now I don't know what's real anymore. I don't even know if I'm real anymore. But you wanted the truth, so here it is. Every horrifying, mutilated, wrong detail, skin-crawling second of it. because I went back and I met what used to be me. The key burned in my hand the entire drive. I didn't know where I was going. There wasn't even an address. But somehow, I knew. Like something inside me remembered, like a rot underneath my skull had suddenly started whispering again. It wasn't the same storage facility, not even the same town. It was 3 hours away, down in Maryland, tucked behind an abandoned Waffle House and a fenced-in pit of garbage trucks. There was no gate, no cameras, just endless rows of rusted metal units, half-eaten by vines, most of the numbers scratched out or replaced with chalk symbols. I passed one unit with what looked like a dead deer's ribcage nailed to the front. Another had handprints, tiny ones, smeared in black ash, all along the door. I didn't even need to search. My feet walked right to Unit 77 like I'd been there 1,000 times. The lock clicked open before I even inserted the key. The door rolled up on its own, and what I saw inside, it wasn't a storage unit. It was a hallway, not a makeshift hallway, a literal, tiled, flickering, fluorescent-lit corridor that sloped downward like a hospital basement swallowed by time and rust. I looked back. The parking lot was gone. Behind me now was just darkness. I stepped inside. The second I crossed the threshold, the floor under me breathed. I felt it, like lungs, wet and warm. The walls pulsed faintly with every step, and from deep ahead came the sound of clapping, slow, wet, echoing, like someone smacking raw meat together in a distant locker room. I kept walking. The corridor led to a rusted steel door with a keypad. The screen lit up, waiting. I tried the only thing I could think of. DANNY. The lock beeped green. The door swung open. What I saw was not physically possible. It was my childhood house. Every single detail. The same floral patterned couch my mum never let us sit on. The exact dent in the wall from when I threw a Wii controller during Mario Kart. The faint red stain in the corner of the carpet from the one time my nose wouldn't stop bleeding during a thunderstorm. But everything was off. The walls pulsed slightly. The colors didn't stay still, like the room was trying to remember how to exist. And in the hallway were photos. Only these weren't ours. They were of me, but older, progressively more broken. Images of me in hospital beds, me behind glass, me hunched in a corner, naked, with wires coming out of my back and head, me biting down on something that looked like a piece of my own tongue. I stepped into my bedroom, and that's when I saw him. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, facing away. Same hair, same building, even the small birthmark on the side of the neck. I whispered, "Who are you?" He didn't answer. I stepped closer, and when I looked around to face him, his eyes were gone, not gouged, sealed, like his skin had grown over them, smooth, twisted, a waxy wet texture where eyes and a nose should have been. His mouth opened, no lips, just teeth, but not human ones, baby teeth, thousands of them, layered, like shark rows, all the way down his throat. Then he spoke, but not with words, with my voice, my inner voice, like my own thoughts had been turned inside out and were crawling up his throat. You were the last one to forget. They kept you soft. But I remember everything. He stood, and my knees gave out, because his arms were wrong, too long, his elbows bent both ways, fingers too many, all of them moving like they had their own thoughts. You left me in the mirror. He held something in his hand. It was a VHS tape, labeled in red ink, real one. I couldn't speak. My throat felt sewn shut. He put the tape in a dusty TV/VCR combo on the dresser. The screen flickered, and I saw my birth. Literally. Footage from a delivery room. Nurses, screaming. Me, freshly born. But the doctor didn't hold me up. He handed me to a second man, wearing all black, face blurred, and the screen cut to subject number 43, baseline installed, regression program initiated. Then clips, hundreds of them, flashing images like subliminal hypnosis. Me strapped to a chair, age 4, eyes forced open as blinking images flash on a screen. Me, age 8, in a fake school classroom, surrounded by mannequins pretending to be children. Me, age 11, standing at the edge of a hole in the ground, told to watch as another me was dragged into it, screaming for help. Me, at 14, trying to tell my mom what I saw, and her slapping me so hard my nose broke. Only her face wasn't her face. It was a mask, flesh-like, with seams. He turned off the tape. I asked, barely able to speak, "Why are you showing me this?" And he said, "Because I need you to take my place. You're the last real one left, and the regression needs balance." He started pulling at his own skin, literally tearing it off like a shirt. Underneath was nothing, not muscle, not bone, just a mirror, a full body reflection of me. And it smiled, and I felt something in my spine snap. The wall started melting, the door vanished, and that was when I heard the screaming, not his, mine, coming from the mirror. It was me, trapped inside it, punching, screaming, bleeding from the eyes, pleading to be let out. The me on the outside, the one still holding the tape, stepped forward. He whispered, "One of us has to stay." I tried to run, but the floor was liquid now, black, thick, like blood mixed with ink. I fell through it, completely. I woke up in my own bed, back home, morning sun, birds chirping, like it never happened, except there was a tape on my nightstand, same red ink, copy made, balance restored. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, my reflection didn't move. It just stood there, smiling, slowly lifting its hand, and waving. The sun lied. I don't know how else to explain it. When I woke up after falling through that floor, the one that pulsed and breathed like it wanted to digest me, I was in my bed, my apartment, the one I hadn't seen in over a week. Morning light spilled in through the blinds. Birds chirped. Coffee machine burbled to life in the kitchen like it always did. But I knew. Something inside me knew. This wasn't real. Everything was too perfect, too staged, like a movie set built from memories. The walls didn't hum anymore. The air didn't have weight. And when I looked in the mirror, it blinked first. Let me explain. My reflection, the one in the mirror, it looked like me. Same bruised bags under the eyes, same growing stubble, same tiny scar on the chin from when I fell off my scooter in 2nd grade. But it wasn't me, because when I rubbed my eyes, it stood still. When I backed away from the mirror, it stepped forward. Then it opened its mouth and spoke, not aloud, but through the glass, like its voice traveled through bone instead of air. "I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck out there with me." That's when the hallucinations, or I guess the realities, started bleeding in. I opened my fridge. There was no food, just teeth. Dozens of small human teeth scattered across the shelves, some still bloody, some screaming in faint, high-pitched whispers that only stopped when I shut the door. I turned on the faucet. Black water spilled out. Something thick crawled up from the drain. Pale fingers, too long, twitching. They dragged themselves up to the edge of the sink before snapping back like a mousetrap, leaving scratch marks in the steel. I tried to leave the apartment. The front door opened to a hallway I'd never seen before. Not the normal apartment building hall. This one had no end, just doors. Thousands of them. Every door looked identical, except the names on them were mine. Danny A, DA43, Daniel, progress reset, Danny, mirror. I started running. The floor beneath me was fabric, like I was running on sheets, children's bed sheets, my old ones. The same Star Wars pattern I had when I was 7, now soaked in sweat and something darker. The hallway changed as I ran. The lights above me began bursting, one by one, and with each pop, I heard laughter. My laughter, but wrong, twisted, childlike, but deep, like an adult imitating a child. Then I stopped running, because I heard a voice from behind one of the doors. It was my mom, crying, begging, "Please, I gave you what you wanted. You said I could keep the real one." The doorknob turned, and something began clawing at the door from the inside. I ran. Eventually, I woke up again, not in bed, but in a bathtub, full of water that wasn't water. It was thick, viscous, cold, but it hummed. There were pieces of paper floating around me, burned, melted at the edges. I picked one up. It was a photo of me, only my face had been cut out, ripped perfectly, leaving a smooth oval-shaped hole. Every photo was the same, and when I looked into the reflection of the water, the cut-out version of my face was smiling back at me from underneath the surface. That night, it finally happened. The switch. It was around 3:33 a.m. Of course it was. I felt the pressure first, like someone had wrapped their hands around my brain and squeezed. Then, the lights dimmed, but not in the room. In me. My thoughts grew fuzzy, heavy, like they weren't mine anymore. I walked to the mirror without meaning to, and I saw him, the reflection, but it was no longer matching me. He was already smiling, dressed, standing straight, holding something, a skin suit, mine. He stepped forward, and I couldn't move. He placed one hand on the inside of the mirror, and I swear I felt it, his fingers pushing through the glass, pressing into my skull. And then, without warning, he stepped out, like the mirror melted, like water. He just walked through it, and I stepped in. It didn't hurt. It didn't feel like anything, just erasure, sudden and total. The moment I crossed into the other side, I realized I wasn't in the mirror. Not really. I was in the collection, because there were others, hundreds of them, all versions of me, stacked in rows like mannequins, some crying, some laughing. One was just rocking back and forth, holding a copy of Goodnight Moon with the pages torn out and replaced with Polaroids of dead children's mouths. Another one was trying to eat the wall, literally chewing through it with teeth filed down to nubs. All of us trapped, all of us watching him, the one that got out, live my life. I saw it through the glass. He was making breakfast, calling my friends, logging into my accounts, smiling in pictures, smiling at my mother. Then he did something I can't stop replaying. He looked straight at the mirror and whispered, "You should have stayed forgotten." Then he opened a drawer, pulled out a box cutter, held it to his forearm, and started carving letters, not random, names, dates, units, dozens of them. Then, without flinching, he carved a single sentence down the center of his chest. "They are always hungry for the real ones." And suddenly, all around me, the other versions of me began to twitch. Some screamed, some exploded into static and collapsed into piles of black teeth. The walls began closing in, the floor cracked, and beneath us, another level. Rows and rows of beds, each with a copy of me, sleeping, growing, feeding tubes in their arms, TVs mounted above each bed, playing my life on loop like a simulation. Every mistake, every heartbreak, every dream. One of the nurses walked by, except it wasn't a nurse. It was a mirror of my mother, with her mouth sewn shut. She stopped, looked at me, and whispered with her eyes, "He was never your reflection. You were his." Then I woke up, again, back in my body, covered in blood, on my kitchen floor. The mirror was shattered, the reflection was gone, but carved into my arm, in perfect handwriting, not mine, was a single word: switched. I don't know how much longer I have. Every time I blink, I hear my own voice in the walls. Every time I pass a mirror, something follows me for a split second, inverted, walking backward. Every morning, there's one more VHS tape under my bed. Today's was labeled, "You died last night." And the worst part, I watched it, and it was true. I watched him, me, go out into the world, live my life, and when night came, I watched him dig a hole in my backyard, pull something out, a body, mine, twisted, grey, mouth frozen open mid-scream. He smiled at the camera and whispered, "One more down. How many more do you think are left? There is no more waking up." I mean that literally. I don't know if I ever really woke up after stepping into Unit 77. I don't know if this is a dream, or if the dream was my life before. But I know now. This is the final part. I wasn't supposed to see what I saw. I wasn't supposed to remember who I really am. And now that I do, they've begun preparing the regression ceremony. Let me tell you what that is. Let me tell you everything. You won't sleep after this. You won't look at your family the same again. You won't trust yourself. I found the invitation on my pillow. It wasn't written in ink. It was written in blood, not smeared, but penned perfectly, in my exact handwriting. It was on a card made of soft, veiny, warm material that I recognized the longer I stared at it. Skin. It read, "You are cordially invited to your own removal. Regression ceremony begins at 4:44 a.m. Dress code, none. You won't be needing skin." Underneath it, in smaller red lettering, attendance mandatory. Refusal. Mirror rebirth. My hands were already trembling before I turned the card over. On the back, there was a photo of me, but with no skin, just eyes, wide, alive, and a mouth, mid-scream. The location wasn't printed, but I knew where to go. My body moved on its own. I walked out of my apartment, barefoot, bleeding from the soles, like my feet had walked this path 1,000 times already. The streets were empty. The sky was wrong, too black, like it had been burned. No stars, just this shifting static above the skyline, like TV fuzz bleeding through the clouds. No sounds except breathing, not mine, from above me, below me, inside me. I followed it, until I reached an old boarded-up Toys R Us on the edge of town. The sign had been altered, letters rearranged with rusted nails and jawbone fragments. Now it said, "Trust you are." Inside, the air felt wet, like walking into a lung. The shelves were stripped bare, except for TVs. Dozens of old CRTs, each one playing grainy footage of someone like me. Different ages, different faces, but all of them looked scared, broken, trapped. Some of them were watching me back, literally. They moved in sync with my steps. Then I saw one that was exact. My face, my eyes, my thoughts. He was smiling at me. Then he leaned in and whispered something I could hear through the screen. "You're the last. They saved the worst for last." I walked through a pair of sliding glass doors that shouldn't have worked. They led down a spiral staircase made of teeth, human teeth, hundreds of thousands of them, melted and molded into steps. I could feel them crunch beneath my feet. The walls were stitched together with 4 tubes. Some still dripped. With every step, I heard whispers in different languages, looping over each other like static. He can't forget. He tasted the tape. Danny, you were born broken. They cloned you backwards. You are the original sin. When I reached the bottom, there were hundreds of chairs, but only one was occupied. It was me, older, twisted, eyes gouged out, mouth sewn shut with strips of birthday wrapping paper. He was strapped to a chair made of bones. My bones, little things, tiny tibias and radius bones from when I was a child, things I forgot I ever broke. He looked up at me and began violently shaking his head, but he couldn't scream. Only his stomach moved, like something inside was trying to climb out of his throat. The lights above began flashing, and that's when the others arrived. The family. You've probably seen them before. On sidewalks, in crowds, in dreams. Faces too familiar. Movements too smooth. The first one in wore my 3rd grade teacher's face, but it was stitched to someone else's skull. Her hands dragged behind her, bones poking through her sleeves like spider legs. Next came a priest with no eyes, no mouth, no jaw, just a rotating camera mounted on his neck where his face should be, filming everything and feeding it to the TVs behind me. One of them was my father, but younger, perfect teeth, clean-shaven, except his mouth stretched ear to ear, literally splitting his cheeks. Every time he smiled, his gums bled. They all took their places and began the ceremony. It starts with the recounting. One by one, they walked up to me and whispered events from my life, but not the ones I remember, the ones I was never supposed to remember. You drowned in the tub at age 4. We restarted you. The dog never ran away. We sacrificed it to clone your voice. Your brother was real, until you ate him. We replaced him with a memory. He lives in the storage floor now. Your laughter is not yours. We sampled it from another child and implanted it during the regression. Every truth stabbed me. Literally. They didn't use knives. They used VHS tape shards. They sliced my skin with footage. I saw scenes from my life play across each cut. Every trauma, every moment I thought I remembered, now revealed to be fabricated. Then came the disrobing. They tore off my skin, piece by piece, with memories. Every time I forgot something, a chunk peeled off. The more I screamed, the more they cheered. They took my name lost, and when they ripped it from my chest, they wore it, like a robe. Each of them whispered my name and absorbed part of it, until nothing was left, just me, nameless, skinned, remembering everything. Then they showed me the final screen. A massive projector dropped from the ceiling. It played footage from the story, everything I've told you, every part, and then it cut to a webcam feed. You, reading this, right now, eyes wide, chills on your spine, heart in your throat. The priest with the camera face whispered, "He has passed the ceremony. He has bled the memory into another." The others smiled. One reached forward, its fingers piercing through the screen, and whispered directly to you. You read it. Now you're next. And now you know. The regression isn't a single event. It's a virus, a mimic, a ritual, passed through stories, passed through attention. All it needs is for you to see it, and it latches on. It follows you in reflections, in your dreams, in the parts of your childhood you can't explain. The next time you see your own face, watch carefully. See if it blinks when you don't. See if it smiles too wide. See if it whispers, "You're not real anymore." I am. Your regression ceremony has begun, and there is only one way out. Don't sleep. Don't look in mirrors. And never, ever open Unit 77, because once you do, you wake up inside it. I found Portal on the dark web. It took me to a rave, and now something want me dead. Yo, so, before I even start this, just know, I'm not crazy. I know that's like the classic opener in these kinds of stories, but I swear, I'm just a normal guy who clicked one wrong link at 2 a.m. and now my life is not normal anymore. I'm writing this from a hotel room in Prague. Yeah, Prague. I've never been to Europe before, and now I'm literally hiding out in a place I booked with cash under a fake name because something is following me. And it all started in the most random, most stupid way you could ever imagine. So here's what went down. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I had work the next day, but I was in one of those moods where you tell yourself, I'll just stay up another 10 minutes, and suddenly it's 3 a.m. and you're watching conspiracy videos about missing flights and skinwalkers at national parks. You know the vibe. Anyway, I'm scrolling Reddit, Arjo Conspiracy, R Unresolved Mysteries, the usual rabbit hole, and I come across this thread called Dark Web Portals. Anyone actually tried one? It was mostly jokes and trolls, but one comment stood out. It wasn't upvoted much, buried near the bottom. The user had a weird name, something like Portal Junkie 223, and their profile had no karma, no posts, just that one comment. It said, "Don't go looking for portals unless you're ready to leave everything behind." Not metaphorically, literally. Go to the deadend.onion. Password RAVECORE22. But I warned you. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe boredom, maybe morbid curiosity. But I screenshotted it, closed Reddit, and like a total idiot, fired up Tor browser. Yeah, don't judge me. We've all done stupid stuff at 3 a.m. So I go to this .onion site. It takes forever to load. The screen finally pops up, and it's just black with this glitchy, pixelated animation of a rotating cube. Think early 2000s web aesthetic, but somehow off. Like, you know how sometimes you look at something and it just feels wrong? Anyway, the password box appears. I type in RAVECORE22. Boom. Instantly, loud music blares through my headphones, like full-on EDM, bass thumping, lasers flashing on screen, and this distorted voice starts speaking over the beat. Welcome to the end. This is your invite. I nearly closed the browser right there, but then the screen went completely white, and a spinning QR code appeared. Below it, text scrolled out in red. Scan me. Come to the party. Don't be late. Underneath that, Silicon Valley, location, July 1st, 2 a.m., entry only with code. No address, no explanation, just that. And this is where it gets even weirder. The next morning, I woke up thinking it was just a weird dream. But when I opened my camera roll, the QR code was saved. I swear on my life, I never took a screenshot, but it was there, right between a picture of my dog and the meme I saved. I scanned it with a burner phone. Yeah, I had one because I used to flip sneakers on the side and didn't want my main number on Craigslist. And it opened a countdown timer. Just a black screen with numbers ticking down. I should have ignored it. I should have just deleted the whole thing and gone on with my life. But something about it felt, I don't know, magnetic, like I wasn't supposed to look away. And yeah, I'm an idiot. I went. July 1st rolls around. I tell my roommates I'm going on a date, throw on my dumbest Rave fit, hoodie, black jeans, Vans, and hop in my car. I drive 2 hours into the outskirts of Palo Alto. GPS doesn't help me at all. Signal dies halfway, of course, but the timer on the burner phone updates with arrows. No text, just red arrows pointing left or right. After about 30 minutes of driving through back roads and dark forested areas, I pull up to this abandoned warehouse. Classic horror movie stuff. It looks like an old shipping facility with rusted gates, boarded windows, and graffiti all over the walls. There's no music, no lights, just dead silence. But the timer on the burner phone hits 0, and then the phone buzzes once. Go in. Now listen, I should have turned around. I know that, but I didn't. I open the side door and step in. Immediately, I'm hit with this blast of hot air and flashing red lights. The entire inside of the warehouse has been converted into some kind of underground rave. Fog machines, pulsing strobe lights, people dancing, like hundreds of people. It looked like something out of a Vice documentary. Just total chaos, but in that organized rave kind of way. Here's the thing though. Everyone there was wearing masks. Not COVID masks. Full face masks. Weird, detailed ones. One dude had a plastic Mickey Mouse head. Another had what looked like a molded Ronald McDonald face, but the eyes were completely blacked out. Someone walked past me, wearing a Starbucks mermaid mask, but it was stretched across their face, like skin. It was surreal. And nobody was talking. I mean no one. Just dancing. Not even on beat. It was like they were glitching out, moving in weird, jerky motions, like NPCs in a video game. And anytime I tried to speak to someone, they would just turn their head, slowly, and stare through their masks. At some point, I started to get that deep, primal fear. You know when your body just knows something's wrong before your brain catches up? Yeah, that. I pulled out the burner phone, trying to check the time, and the screen was just flashing one word: run. That's when the music cut. Instantly. The entire warehouse went dark. No music, no lights, just the sound of breathing. I froze. And then, from somewhere behind me, I heard this heavy, metallic dragging sound, like a chain being pulled across the floor. Everyone around me stopped dancing and slowly started to walk, not run, toward the far side of the warehouse, like they were being drawn. I turned to look back, and that's when I saw it. If anyone ever sends you a QR code from the dark web promising a party, burn your phone, move cities, change your name, because I didn't. And now something is following me, and I don't think I'm going to survive the week. You ever have a moment in your life where time just stops? Like, not metaphorically, like it actually stops. No noise, no movement. Your own breathing feels like it's echoing 100 miles inside your head. That's exactly what it felt like in that warehouse. The lights were gone. The music had stopped. I was surrounded by people in masks, just frozen in place. And then, the sound. The chain dragging noise I mentioned before. It wasn't just a prop or someone being edgy. This thing dragging it wasn't human. I couldn't see it yet, but I could feel it. Like the air itself got heavier every time it moved. It was pulling something huge, something wet, across the concrete floor. It made this high-pitched squeal, like the sound of a baby monitor cranked all the way up, except twisted, like it was coming from inside my own teeth. Everyone around me started moving in perfect sync. No talking, no sound, just a slow shuffle toward a massive rusted door at the back of the warehouse. It was partially open, and behind it was this, not light, but something like artificial moonlight. Dim, flickering, like an old CRT TV playing static, but lighting up the whole back room. And this is where things go completely off the rails. I followed them. I don't know why. Maybe fear. Maybe I thought someone would break character and go, "Haha, gotcha, you're on TikTok Live." But no, we weren't being pranked. We were being watched. When I stepped through the rusted door, I expected another rave room or some sketchy performance art thing. Instead, it was a hallway, but not normal, not real. It was long, longer than the building should have allowed, too narrow, with walls that pulse like skin under a microscope. The floor was sticky, but it wasn't blood. It was something darker, thicker. I looked down and saw my own reflection in the fluid, except it wasn't me. It was me, but my mouth was missing, like the skin was completely sealed where my lips should have been. I blinked and looked again. Gone. Just my own face. The people kept walking. The Mickey Mouse mask dude walked past me, dragging his feet, not blinking. That's when I realized something that still messes me up to this day. None of them were breathing. No rise and fall of the chest. No sound of exhaling. Just silent movement, like marionettes on a string. About halfway down the hallway, we entered this huge circular chamber, like an arena, with smooth walls and a domed ceiling that glowed faint blue. No exit, no windows. In the center of the room was this metal structure, kind of like a throne, but way too big for a person to sit in, like it was made for something with multiple limbs. I know that sounds like a cheesy horror line, but I'm telling you, it looked alive. The throne had wires, tubes, and hooks all over it, and dangling from those hooks were real people. Their bodies were pierced through the shoulder blades, mouths forced open by metal gags, eyes taped open. They weren't screaming. They couldn't. Their tongues had been removed, and they were still alive. I remember locking eyes with this one girl, maybe 19, 20 years old. She was wearing a torn Coachella wristband and had a faded butterfly tattoo on her collarbone. She looked straight at me and started twitching, like she was trying to warn me or communicate. But then the floor started vibrating. Something was coming up. You know those nightmares where something's crawling out of a wall or under your bed? Now picture that, but it's real, and it's bigger than a truck. This thing, it wasn't human. It looked like a mass of arms and legs, some of them human, others not, like a collection of stolen body parts melted together into this towering flesh sculpture. But it moved like it had purpose. Its face, if you could call it that, was a stretched out human skull with multiple sets of eyes blinking at different intervals. And it laughed, not audibly. It laughed inside my head, a low, throaty echo that vibrated through my bones. Everyone in the room dropped to their knees like they were worshipping it, except me, because I made the mistake of running. I turned and sprinted back toward the hallway, but it wasn't there anymore, just a solid wall. I slammed my fists into it. Nothing. I screamed, finally screamed, and the people in the room all turned to look at me at the exact same time, eyes wide, unblinking. Then they started crawling toward me. Not walking, not running, crawling, their arms dislocated to stretch farther. I heard bones snap, skin tear, but they just kept coming, mouths gaping open with this black, oil-like fluid leaking from their throats. I slipped on the wet floor, trying to back away. My hand touched something soft. I looked down, and it was a face. A literal face. Someone's peeled-off face, pressed flat like paper. That was when I saw a small vent in the far corner of the room, barely big enough for a person. It had a red blinking light above it and a label that said, "Authorized Escape." I didn't hesitate. I dove into it head first, scraping my back along the metal edges. I crawled like my life depended on it, because it did. As I moved through the duct, I could hear them crawling after me, not behind me, through the walls, their fingers tapping, nails dragging along the metal. Something whispered my name inside the vent, not just once, over and over and over and over. When I finally emerged, I wasn't in the warehouse anymore. I was in some kind of control room. Massive screens lined the walls, showing live feeds of other raves, other rooms, other victims, different locations, Tokyo, Berlin, New York, Rio. And each screen had one thing in common. The thing was in every single one. Different forms, different masks, same presence. There was a man slumped over the desk, in front of the monitors, face down on the keyboard. His body was twitching. I turned him over and realized he had no skin left, just muscle and tendon and bone, peeled so cleanly it looked surgical, and etched across his chest, carved into the muscle itself, were the words, "You joined the party never ends." I ran out of that room, down a stairwell, through another hallway, kicked open an emergency exit, and found myself in a completely different part of town. It was daylight. I was in a random alley behind a Taco Bell in San Jose, 2 hours away from the warehouse. No car, no phone signal. The burner phone melted in my hoodie pocket. Literal melted plastic. And the worst part, I had a stamp on my wrist. You know, like a club entry stamp. Except it wasn't ink. It was branded into my skin. A perfect circle with a single eye in the center and 3 dots underneath. It still itches like hell. Sometimes it bleeds. Sometimes I wake up and it's glowing faint red. That was 4 days ago. Since then, I've been seeing that symbol everywhere. On coffee cups, on graffiti walls in cities I don't remember visiting, on random TikToks with no likes and captions that just say, "We see you." A Starbucks in Prague had it carved into the bathroom mirror. The worst was when I FaceTimed my mom. She picked up but didn't speak. She was wearing a mask, a plastic Ronald McDonald face, and behind her, the thing, standing in the hallway. Its head slowly tilted sideways as it reached toward the screen. I ended the call. Haven't spoken to her since. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. I'm writing this because I don't know how much longer I have before it finds me again. I've changed hotels twice. Haven't slept in 30 hours. Every time I close my eyes, I hear the chain dragging again. That thing is still out there, still watching. And now, I think it wants me to bring someone else. The mark on my wrist, it's spreading. My veins are turning black. My eyes burn when I look at any screen. It's like it's trying to convert me into one of them. If you've ever thought about going on the dark web just for fun, don't. And for the love of everything, if someone ever says, "The party never ends," run. There's something wrong with my reflection. It's not even subtle anymore. It moves half a second after I do. And last night, It smiled when I wasn't. My eyes blinked, but my reflection didn't. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not hallucinating. I've been off caffeine, no drugs, no alcohol, no sleep. Well, okay, almost no sleep, but not enough to invent the things I've seen. I think I've been marked, branded, infected. Whatever that place was, whatever that thing was in the warehouse, it didn't let me go. It let me leave. That's not the same. I've been crashing at a crusty little hostel just outside the city center in Prague. Cheap, off-grid, no cameras, mostly travelers, and kids doing Euro trips on a budget. Nobody notices you here. Perfect, right? Until 3 nights ago, I woke up with someone standing at the foot of my bed. At first, I thought I was dreaming. You ever get that sleep paralysis thing where you feel like something's watching you? Yeah, this was way past that. I was fully awake, phone in my hand, TikTok still open, and there he was, black hoodie, standing dead still, breathing through his mouth. But the worst part, he was wearing my face. I mean, my exact face. Eyebrows, hair, acne scar on the right cheek, crooked incisor. But there was no soul in the eyes, just glossy black marbles, like wet stones pulled from a river. And when I moved, he copied me. Not instantly, half a beat late, like a lagging mirror. Then he bent forward and whispered, in my exact voice, "You left the rave. That wasn't allowed." And he started peeling his face off. I know how that sounds. It's not dramatic. It's not poetic. It's what happened. He gripped the skin of my cheek with both hands, hooked his fingers under it like it was a rubber Halloween mask, and started peeling, slowly, like it was stuck. You could hear it, like Velcro made of flesh. The skin didn't just come off clean, either. There was blood, nerves, even some yellow globs of fat clinging to the inside. Underneath, it was a black void, not muscle, not bone, just nothing. And from that nothing, something else looked out at me. It wasn't curious. It wasn't angry. It wasn't anything. It just watched, like a kid poking a dead animal with a stick, wondering how long until it stops twitching. And then it lunged. I threw the lamp at it and ran barefoot into the hallway, screaming. Other guests opened their doors, but when they looked inside my room, it was empty. No blood, no guy, nothing, just the mirror. And my reflection, still smiling. They're not just following me now, they're copying me, hijacking anything they can. My image, my habits, my social media. Last week, my old Instagram account, which I deactivated when this all started, reactivated itself. New photos posted, none taken by me. One of me sleeping, another of me looking directly at the camera, but from behind myself. The last one, a still from a CCTV feed I didn't know existed. It showed me walking into a McDonald's in Prague, alone. But there were 3 of me in the picture. One was ahead of me in line, one behind me, all wearing the same clothes, all facing away. But the reflections in the restaurant mirror, all 3 were smiling. There's something I haven't told you yet, something that's been eating me alive. Before the rave, about 2 weeks before, I got a message on Reddit, an anonymous DM, just a short one. "We're watching you. You dance well." I thought it was spam, or a bot, maybe someone trolling. But now, I think that was my first invitation. They picked me, somehow. Maybe they monitor people browsing conspiracy subs. Maybe they saw me through my camera. Maybe the QR code was just the last trigger. But I think I've figured out what they want. They want to replace us. They use the raves as bait. Because who doesn't want to go to a secret party, right? Something edgy, underground, exclusive. They get people who won't be missed right away. Travelers, loners, addicts, runaways. People like me. And then they copy them, steal their skin, their speech, their movement, but not their soul. I met a guy 2 nights ago. American, mid-30s. Looked like he hadn't slept in a year. He approached me in the back alley behind a kebab shop. Said he recognized the symbol on my wrist. Said he used to have one too. His story, almost identical. He went to a party in Barcelona, got invited by a QR code on a Bitcoin forum, walked into a rave that turned into a slaughterhouse. Said he watched a girl have her legs surgically removed while still alive, and then watched a copy of her stand up and walk away, smiling, saying she felt better. He showed me a video on his flip phone. Yeah, dude carries a flip phone. It was low res, jittery, but clear enough. A masked crowd circling a metal table. On it, a boy, maybe 12, restrained with belts, writhing, and one of the crowd, someone dressed like a nurse but wearing a Hello Kitty mask, was sawing off his arm. The boy was crying, the crowd was clapping, and the music was thumping like it was the drop at an EDM festival. He said that's how they change people. Through ritual, blood, rhythm. The music isn't sound, he told me. It's a signal, a code that rewrites whatever makes you human. This guy, his name was Jonas, warned me about the awakening. Said it's what happens after you leave the rave, but before they fully convert you. Symptoms include loss of reflection control, seeing yourself in third person, sudden bleeding from your palms, teeth falling out and growing back sharper, sleep paralysis with mirrored versions of yourself, sitting on your chest, the ability to hear bass thumping in places where there is no sound. All of that happening to me right now. Last night, my fingernails peeled off in one piece. I wrapped them in a sock and threw them in the dumpster behind the hostel. An hour later, I checked my bed. They were back under my pillow, perfectly arranged in a fan shape, like a gift. Tonight, I got a notification, not a normal one. My old burner phone, which should be dead, vibrated. The screen flickered on, all black. Then red letters appeared. You're invited back. One more song. Don't disappoint us. Below it, a video began playing. It was me, standing at the window of my hostel, watching the street below. Except I never filmed that. I never even looked out the window. But there I was, and behind me, the copy, wearing my skin like a jacket, holding something behind his back. Then the video glitched, and for a split second, I saw what it was. A chain, covered in teeth. I don't know what the next part of the ritual is, but they were escalating. I can't tell what's real anymore. My reflection lags. I hear footsteps when I'm alone. I wake up in rooms I didn't fall asleep in. I haven't looked in a mirror in 48 hours. I'm scared of what I'll see. And worst of all, I caught myself smiling today, unprovoked, blank face. Then suddenly, a grin, wide, too wide. My cheeks ached, like it wasn't me controlling the muscles. I wasn't feeling anything, but I was smiling. I was smiling just like them. If you're reading this, you're already too close. They're in the code, in the Wi-Fi, in every unpatched webcam and forgotten Bluetooth speaker. They spread through the rhythm, through bass lines and drops, and looped vocals you can't understand, but your brain absorbs anyway. You think you're listening to music. You're listening to infection. Stay off the dark web. Burn your phone. Never ever scan a QR code from a stranger, because once you hear the song, you're already dancing. I shouldn't be writing this, not because I'm scared someone will find me, not because I think they're watching, but because I don't think I'm me anymore. Let me explain something that's been happening that I haven't told anyone, not even in the lost entries, not even Jonas, not even myself, because this isn't the kind of thing you admit, not unless you're already spiraling so far down the tunnel that light becomes fiction. For the past 48 hours, I've been disappearing. Not literally, not completely, but in pieces. My fingertips stopped leaving prints yesterday. I tested it on a glass cup, on my phone screen, on a mirror. Nothing. Just smudges. My voice, it's changing. Recorded myself this morning using a pocket recorder. It sounds like me, but layered. Like someone's trying to imitate my voice over mine. Like someone else is breathing through my throat, speaking a half beat after me. If you play it back slow, you hear two words being said at once. Mine, and something darker. The word home was said as H-O-M-E, corrupted, wrong. Like the word itself is decaying. I think that's what this thing does. It doesn't just take you, it rebuilds you wrong. 2 nights ago, I blacked out inside the shower. No drugs, no alcohol, no panic attack, just black. When I came to, the water was cold. My fingernails were gone again. Not ripped, not cracked. Filed, etched, filed into perfect sharp triangles. And across my chest, in black, no, not, burn, brand, were the words, the floor is a lung, keep dancing or it stops breathing. My feet were bleeding from friction. There were worn tracks in the floor of the shower where I had clearly been spinning in place, like I'd been dancing. They can control your body, even while you sleep, especially while you sleep. I tried duct taping myself to the bed, literally, arms to the frame, legs spread and taped down like a crime scene, just to see. When I woke up, the tape was gone, and I was sitting at the foot of the bed, staring at the door, humming something I didn't recognize. Only thing I remember is hearing a voice right before I opened my eyes, like it was inside my stomach. It said, "He's waking up too fast. Slow him down. Use the memory pills again." That's when I noticed the pill bottles on the floor. I didn't bring them. The labels were smudged, but readable if you tilted them against the bathroom light. Each one was printed with the same prescription: do not take if you still have a shadow. One of the pills was half dissolved in a glass of water. I didn't drink it, but the water was gone. This morning, my phone rang. Not the burner, not the backup, my main phone. The one I left in the US when I flew out. The one that should be locked in a drawer at my old apartment back in Oregon. It lit up with a FaceTime. Caller ID. Mom. I answered out of instinct. Not smart, not careful. Her face appeared, but it wasn't her face. Not anymore. It was like someone stitched it together using old photos from Facebook and badly rendered 3D graphics. The eyes weren't aligned. One blinked a second too slow. Her smile was just teeth, no lips. The lips were stuck in the middle of the screen like a JPEG that never loaded right. And behind her, the thing, but not the way you think. This time, it was wearing my dead dog's skin. I wish I was making this up. I wish it was just a dream. But it was standing in the hallway of my childhood home, where my German shepherd, Luna, used to sleep. It had her eyes, but they were human. My eyes. The face flickered, glitched, then said in a voice that cracked like broken bones, It's your turn to play host now. Don't cry. Your mouth will be removed soon anyway." Then it hung up. I'm starting to feel unreal. I can't smell things anymore. Food tastes like paper. People look like they're melting if I stare too long. Music feels like it's playing through my skin instead of into my ears. My heartbeat syncs with it. That same bass line from the rave. It's everywhere now. I walked into a cafe. Normal, trendy, overpriced. And the second I stepped in, everyone turned to look at me. Not instantly, one at a time, like a wave of recognition. They all smiled. Every single person. One smile, cloned across 12 different people. Perfectly even teeth. All too white. Then the barista, a dude with pink hair and a septum ring, took out his phone, pointed it at me, and whispered to no one in particular, "He's arrived. The host's skin is warming." I ran, didn't pay, didn't turn around, just ran until I vomited. The puke was black, filled with wriggling, thread-like things that evaporated when I touched them. I looked in the mirror of a parked car, just to check. My mouth, it was stitched closed, not physically, not with thread, with code. The mirror glitched like a TikTok filter. Text scrolled across the glass in neon red. Mute the host. Silence the memory. Drown the skin. I backed away and tripped over a crate. The driver of the car, someone I didn't even see inside, just turned their head and whispered, "It's okay. You'll remember less tomorrow." I met Jonas again. He found me near the tram tracks, wrapped in a hoodie, twitching like he'd been electrocuted. He was carrying a notebook, pages soaked in blood, torn from different journals. He handed me one and said, "They're inside now." I think I left my real body back at the second rave. Or maybe that wasn't me. I don't remember what my voice sounded like before the rhythm started. "Do you?" I said nothing. He smiled, then screamed like his own skin betrayed him, and ran into traffic. Got hit by a cab. But when I ran over to check, there was nothing under the car. No body, no blood, just his notebook. It said, "If you end the song, you end the world. But if you keep listening, you end yourself." It's not about the rave. The rave was bait. The rave was entry. What they're doing is making music out of people. They take your soul, stretch it across frequencies, and play you on a loop. Every time you remember the party, they capture a bit more of your memory, twist it, remix it into something alien. You become part of the playlist. And the worst part, you still feel it. You know you're not human anymore, but a sound, a sensation, a beat someone else is dancing to. You are the bass drop. You are the hook. You are the empty space between verses. And someone, somewhere, is moving their body to the rhythm of your disintegration. That symbol on my wrist, the eye with 3 dots, it spread. Now it's on my chest, my back, the roof of my mouth. It pulses when I sleep. I feel it dragging me somewhere deeper than buildings or earth or death, somewhere that doesn't have time, just tempo. I think that's where the rave really is, not in a place, but in a signal, in a frequency you can only hear once your humanity is low enough, once your reflection stops copying you, once your name loses its meaning. They told me I was a clean host, that I would make a clear channel. And now I wake up with microphones buried in my skin. They're listening to my blood, recording my heartbeat, trying to sample my soul. If you ever hear a beat you don't recognize, if your reflection blinks wrong, if someone hands you a flyer that says you're invited with no date, no time, no place, don't go. Don't scan the code. Don't hear the song. Because once it starts playing, it doesn't stop. And when the track ends, you'll be next. You don't know what it feels like to be hollow until you wake up with someone else's eyes sewn into your sockets. Not metaphorically, I mean literally. Someone else's eyes, wide, wet, glazed over like they belonged to a corpse dumped in a swamp and forgotten for a week. I saw them in the mirror this morning, not mine. The pupils were slightly too large, the sclera tinted with veins that pulsed to a beat I could hear inside my skull. Each blink made a wet sound. Each tear ran down my face like oil, slow and heavy, leaving stains on the sheets that smelled like something burned. There's no more time. This is the final entry. I don't know what I'll be when the sun comes up. I don't even know if the sun is real anymore. I haven't seen it in 6 days. The sky flickers now. When I stare long enough at the clouds, I see faces in them, wide mouths grinning with metal teeth, opening and closing as if lip-syncing to something beneath the sky. There's a hum in the air that won't stop, like a phone vibrating deep inside my bones. I tried gouging out the eyes, mine, the ones they replaced. I used a spoon. Didn't work. They grew back. Wrong. Now I see things in layers, like I'm looking at the world through film reels stacked on top of each other, skipping frames. Trees bleed. People flicker between human and not human every few seconds. Buildings breathe. Floors shiver. And music? Music is everywhere. Not just beats. Not just background noise. Voices. Screams chopped into loops. The man coughing on the subway? He wasn't coughing. He was beatboxing someone's agony. I found the second portal last night. They left it open for me. You know where it was? Inside a McDonald's play place. Yeah, behind a red slide. I crawled into it because the app on my burner buzzed with a message that just said, "Last call for host body. Final stage initiated. Dance or die." When I slid down, I didn't come out the other side. I landed in the real Rave, not the warehouse, not the city, not the world. This place isn't on any map. It isn't even on the same plane of existence. The floor was made of people, flattened, screaming, pulsing bodies, stitched together into a carpet of muscle and bone and hair and faces that tried to speak but couldn't. Every time the bass dropped, they convulsed. Their mouths opened like fish gasping for air, but no sound came out, just smoke. Above me, massive speakers floated like meat balloons, shaped like heads. Each one had a human mouth stretched over the cone, lip-syncing every beat. The DJ booth sat atop a pile of mannequins, all slumped over in poses like they were worshipping something they used to be. And behind the booth stood it, the one from the warehouse, the one from FaceTime. Only now it was bigger, fleshier, crawling with mouths. It had multiple faces. All of them were me. Some were missing skin. Others were smiling so wide their jaws were split and dangling. One just kept repeating my name in a voice like broken glass. "He's here. He's here. He's here. Finally. Now we play him forever." And then they brought out Jonas. He wasn't dead. Not exactly. They had converted him. He danced like a puppet, limbs jerking, blood spraying from the joints, like someone replaced his bones with razors. Every movement made the crowd cheer. A deafening, glitchy roar of voices filtered through distortion. A voice inside my own skull whispered, "See? He moves now. No more fear. No more identity. Just rhythm. Just purpose. Just beat." Then Jonas exploded, right there. Boom. No fire. No flash. Just 1 second, he was dancing, and the next, his body burst into 1,000 hands. Each hand clapped to the beat. Each hand had my face, They called me next. The music stopped. The walls expanded like lungs. The crowd backed up. The flesh floor writhed beneath me. And the speakers screamed, "Host transmission, active, sample the final piece, unzip the human file." I tried to run. The floor grabbed me. Fingers pushed up from the carpet of bodies, digging into my calves, yanking me down. I felt teeth in the soles of my feet, biting, sucking, like leeches made of enamel. They pulled me to the center. A table rose, not a DJ table, an altar. They laid me down. I tried screaming, but no sound came out, because they'd already removed my tongue. I didn't even notice. I don't know when they did it. They didn't sedate me. They wanted me awake. A saw came down from the ceiling, made from spinal bones and wires. It moved with elegance, slow, rhythmic, matching the beat. It started at my stomach. They cut vertically, not horizontally. I felt everything, every nerve, every snap, every splatter of blood spraying on the crowd as they cheered and threw up their hands like it was a Coachella drop. But the pain wasn't the worst part. The worst part was hearing myself laugh. It wasn't me. It was the copy. Standing at the edge of the stage, wearing my skin perfectly now, moving like me, blinking like me, crying like me. It watched me being disassembled, and it smiled. Then, in my voice, it said, "He danced well, but not good enough. I'll try harder. I'll get more listeners this time." Then it turned and walked into the crowd, and they let it go. I woke up just now, in my hostel, back in my bed, everything clean, everything quiet, no marks, no blood, except the reflection still isn't me. It copies my movements again. It speaks when I don't. And behind it, a crowd. Blurred, silent people, watching, waiting, and that beat, still going. I checked my Spotify this morning. A new playlist appeared. No title, no artist, just one track. "You Are the Song." I hit play. It sounded like a heartbeat, then screaming, then me, begging, crying, screaming, looped, remixed, auto-tuned into a melody so evil, so surgically wrong, it made my nose bleed instantly. I tried deleting it. It installed itself onto my phone again, and my laptop, and my TV, and my brain, because now, the music isn't on devices, it's in the walls, in the blood, in me. I am the song. I am the track they play at the end of the world. I am the final beat before the silence. So this is your last warning. Don't listen. Don't click the link. Don't scan the QR code. Don't go to the rave. Because once you hear the beat, you're already dead. They just haven't pressed play on your remix yet.